GenC podcast. Welcome to the GenC podcast. I'm your host, JP Jackson, and today we have Subaganiah. Welcome, Subaganiah.
Thank you, Jobs.
For those that do not know you, who is Subaganiah?
I'm Subaganiah Basa, born and raised in Cape Town, Kalksteenfontein. What more about me?
Any interests?
Yes. I love sport. I'm passionate about helping people, passionate about education. Have a little family of my own, little daughter who is keeping us on our toes, also married. That's about it. That's me.
Lovely. So you grew up in Kalksteenfontein and then you went to high school outside of your area. And we've spoken about this before, but sometimes it's almost as if when you leave that area, now it's almost like no longer part of that area. But what was your experience like going to high school outside of where you lived?
It was tricky sometimes because, there were great opportunities at, what people call former Model C school.
Yes. Premium education.
Yes. And the opportunities and stuff that we had.
Yeah.
But there were always people who would tell my parents now, my mom, my dad specifically, they would be like, the schools here are just as good, blah, blah, blah. There was always a thing, like, why do you want to pay so much money? Yeah. Even though my parents' finances weren't really other people's concerns, there were always questions and things like that. So, I stayed, so when I was really young, we were Kalksteen side. Then I moved to Balha for quite a big chunk of our lives, and financial issues happened, so we moved back to Kalksteen. And even when we were in Balha, it was like, why that primary school?
Yeah.
Like, why go so far then?
Yeah.
And transport and all the stuff. But, luckily my mom, how my mom is, she's very strong-willed and she doesn't give a like what other people's opinions are. And, she always wanted, and my dad as well, they always wanted the best for me, wanted me to have all the opportunities. And I started swimming at UWC at like 4, between 3 and 4 years old. So they wanted a school that had a swimming pool, that had all the sporting options that I wanted because I was extremely busy, like up and
no
down.
Limitation.
Yeah. From playing soccer in the streets to netball to like I did like 4 to 5 sports a year, like from primary school. You know that as well. That's the one thing we also have in common. So I, they wanted to give me that. They wanted me to have all those opportunities, and that paid off.
Yeah.
Many people might not know, other than my close circle, that going through, let's start at primary school, for example. So there were times as well where I was on financial aid at primary school. And my mom would sub-teach, for free, to make up. And she had a very good relationship with the teachers, with the principal, especially. And, she would pitch in wherever she needed to. And when she could afford to pay more, when my dad could afford to pay more, then that is what they did. Yeah. So also, just to add to the story, my dad got financially, my dad got medically boarded when when I was in grade 4, while going to grade 4. So that was also really hectic. Because he was medically boarded for about 10 years. So it was mostly my mom, working, and my dad, he was at home when there was a house shop and all of that stuff. But that obviously wasn't enough. So anyway, I was on, financial aid. Yeah. Then at high school, it was either scholarships, and in the years I didn't make it, that was financial aid as well. So it was quite tough, but pulled through, and it paid off in a way that when I received like VP colors, for example, there were teachers who were in my corner. They would raise, they would raise funds. They knew, so I would have had to turn it down otherwise, for example. So they would help with the funds, getting my clothes and whatever, my kit. And somehow, through all the difficulty, I don't know actually how my parents did it, but I would always have my sports equipment and, my different tackies for different terrain, like running and all of those things. So, people may say what they want, but my parents had a vision. And yes, people from schools in our area, they might have been just as successful. But this is what my parents thought.
That's what they thought was the best.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
You're also very aware of the situation that you were in. Because I also find you the eldest.
Yes.
The eldest child.
Daughter.
And usually the eldest child is always the experimental. Trying everything. And you were very aware of the situation. Was that always tough to have, like, on one end you wanted to be a child, but on the other end, your family's going through all of this. Was that like almost a motivation to you to make this successful?
Yes. Yes, it really was. So, how people always think children, they don't know what's happening around them, but they do. So I was the eldest. I knew what was going on. Always had intuition about these things. I mean, my parents didn't need to even tell me outright what was happening for me to know when there were issues. So my mom also at some point needed to start from the bottom up. So she was an estate agent. Things didn't go well. She started eventually as a cashier again at Checkers, worked her way up, went into pharmacy. She studied for 2 years and now she's a pharmacist assistant. So she graduated and stuff. So like that was also, those were tough years because my dad couldn't work, until they could clear him medically and he wasn't ready. And my mom started as a cashier. So it was really tough, quite tough. I think Riyadh, like my second youngest, the second eldest.
Officer
so
Muscles.
Officer Muscles, the TikTok sensation. So he was a bit aware. But the youngest two, I guess they were shielded the most. Whenever I made money, so I did entrepreneurship at school as well, because that's what they had at the former model, Model C school. So I did that. I made my money. That's also where I learned about businesses from my parents, because they also had a house shop. I learned, I received money from them. I paid them back the money that they lent, and I just built profit from there. And I would always make sure that I would give my brothers a little bit.
Something.
Whenever we were away from our parents, it was, I don't know what it is, but let's call it this elder sibling thing. But I would try to make sure I'm looking after them. But don't get me wrong, like we had some family support. We did have support here and there. And that was great. Whether it be slightly financial or just like
just
helping.
Being there.
Yes, we had that. But this elder sister thing, I took it to the extreme, I guess. So
stepping away from the family aspect and focusing more on you, you then went on to achieve so much at high school, even with those things that you had. Becoming head girl of the Settlers High School at the time. And that's a big achievement for someone that comes in with that, not knowing everyone at the time. And they also don't know your situation either. They just know you as Subaganiah, this outstanding person. Was that a big milestone for you in your life?
Yes, it really was. It was something very different because, obviously we had friends. Not everyone knew. There were select few that knew, that really knew my background. But mentally, I actually wasn't doing that well at school. And also, which I found out later, very much later on in life,
as
all
you
the studies, that I actually had ADHD and things were actually tough. With now, looking back. So things were tough, and luckily, I don't know, I was blessed in a sense when it came to schooling and to learning and studying. So I made it through. But yeah, that was a major milestone. There were, however, feelings of like, okay, so I'm here now, but how do I live up to this expectation now? And a lot of the time, so like people used to think that my parents put the amount of pressure on me that was there, but that wasn't it. It was that I knew I needed to amount to something because I wanted to help my parents out of, and my family out of the situation. And my goal was actually to move my parents, which eventually we achieved with the support and love, from Ridwan, husband. We worked well together. Yes. We worked really well together, getting them to this point. And I'm so glad that they're where they're at. But so basically, I worked towards that. That is what I pushed for. And people used to be like, you mustn't let your parents, some teachers even told me, mustn't let your parents push you like this. Your mom expects a lot from you. And I would be like, oof, don't throw my mom under the bus. And my mom she's very blunt, and she would be like, no, we didn't put this pressure on her.
It's all on her.
It was me. I'm the one who did sport and then had a nap at like a sleeping hour and then woke up in the middle of the morning, early hours of the morning, and did some homework or did some work and then slept again. You know, my parents would be like, you need to sleep. I was the one who went to bed and dreamt of my physics, homework and answers and stuff. They
Doing all
didn't.
The sums as you falling asleep.
They only ever just supported me. And when times were tough, where I felt like I wanted to quit. Like I was so close when maybe it was like athletics or cross country, for example, one of the sports I did. And it was maybe a rainy day and I just didn't want to train. And, it would have messed up my routine and I knew that, but they would support me, get maybe food ready, because I still love 2-minute noodles, get food ready, get the beanies, the scarf, everything, drive me there, sit with me there, sit in the rain there, while I'm busy doing my sport and stuff. So, they just supported me and they didn't have the expectation. I did. And I'm the one who
So my dad
myself.
also did that reverse psychology on me. The way he doesn't give you expectation, but he almost makes it seem like, are you happy with what happened there? So we never say, I need you to get this percentage. But could you have gotten that? Are you happy with that? And it's like, they're playing some next level inception there.
But I must admit though, and my mom, Ridwan, and them will tell you that they never asked me for my report ever. They just expected, and then I was like, a few times I'd be like, Mommy, do I even want to see this? And she's like, it's fine, I'm sure you did well. Until they would like send a thing that would say like you in this position in the grade or whatever, and what but they would be like, we don't really need to see that. Did you do the best that you could do? They really never saw my results. I can't even remember if my mom saw my matric results. I really don't remember. They were just proud either way because I at that point I already received the bursary and stuff from Marty's. So I think at that point they were just like, nah. You
made it. End up studying at Marty's, the University of Stellenbosch. Which, if I remember back, was very tough. And you went from school, then you went into res, and then you got placed into the whole fensters and all those exciting things. But actually studying at that point, what you were studying, was not something you were fully committed to, if I can say to that. Do you mind elaborating on that time?
Sure. So yes, it was a really tough year, 2013. So okay, I'll start from the beginning.
Yes. Take us back.
So I managed to get the bursary. Managed to get in his first floor residence. It was, and then something really, really difficult happened. Like my grandmother, she passed, and we were extremely close. We moved back there. We stayed with her and everything, and it was, I don't know, there was mental turmoil. At that point it was like, what is therapy even? So at that point, I needed to work through that. There were the financial difficulties. Yes, I had a lot of support from Ridwan, from his parents as well, whenever I needed to. So like even with matric exams, I would sometimes stay there to study if I needed, internet, whatever. So I had that support, but it was so difficult just moving to residence, and I was in a single room. And then, I made some friends, but I couldn't even commit to those friendships. And then besides my emotional well-being not being so well, there was the financial difficulty as well. So yes, I would come with my like cooler bag, and have like stuff in freezer and in the fridge and stuff. But then the financial aspect, I don't think people who haven't been through that wouldn't understand how difficult it is. So needing your own laptop. So I was studying mechanical engineering. At some points you do need your own technology. And then walking all the way and early hours of the morning, it wasn't always safe. So sometimes I would just opt to stay. Walk with everyone else, walk back to these, and then stay there. And then also when it comes to like worrying about food. So for example, we had classes from 8 o'clock until 5. And then if you needed tuition or, there would be another hour, 2 hours after that. So it was really tough. It was time consuming. It was extremely crazy. And I could manage, but there were too many external factors that brought me to the point where I was academically excluded. It was a rough ride. I think there was one lecturer I even spoke to. Person might not even remember me. I remember them, but like he was like, you could do this. You were answering the questions, and he couldn't understand. Like we couldn't understand why I was just outright failing, and I was having trouble doing tests or exams. Like I just had very, very bad anxiety, and it was just going really terribly. So my first experience with university was actually just so terrible. And so I was academically excluded. Then I spoke to someone at the university, and then there was an opening for me actually to do an what's it called, the learnership. Like at an aircraft company. And then he said, maybe while I'm going through all of this would be a good stepping stone, maybe do something like this. And that's the direction eventually I went into until I ended up at CPUT again. So I was like hopping, and at this point I also didn't know that I was having issues also sitting down and actually I didn't have the skills at high school for some reason. I don't know. I didn't
and sometimes
need that.
we just didn't have a word for it at that stage, because you were doing it and you were experiencing it, but we didn't speak about stuff like ADHD and how are you feeling mentally at this stage. It was almost like just assumed that you were fine because you were doing well. So it masked the whole am I doing okay situation.
That was at school. Honestly, that was my life at school. I don't think anyone really knew. I mean, my parents, they accommodated me without really knowing. My mom and my dad, without knowing and even thinking that females could have ADHD, because my brothers also actually have it. But it was the research was there for males. So they kind of accommodated me anyway for the things I needed. I hate waking up early. It's I have this thing where I'll fight against the world.
For that half an hour.
Capitalism, waking us up early in the morning. No, I hated waking up early in the morning. My parents, they tried to wake me up nicely, and they had like
Rub
a
your
thing.
head a little bit, make some tea.
Some days, and some days my mom was like, "Oh, you're making all of us late."
Yeah.
So some days, yes, they would lose it, but yeah, they accommodated me to the best of their ability.
Yeah.
And so. Yeah, so I finished at Stellenbosch University. Sorry, I digressed. Then I went into the learnership.
Yeah.
I did physical work.
Yeah.
That was a really nice experience for me. They took me under their wing, taught me so much. Yes. I mean, I was working with heavy machinery, sheet metal, riveting, all of those things. I could do those things. Soldering, learning about electrical work, all of those things. So I did that for 6 months. And then and then we started our first business, Tenacious Tutors. And I needed to tell them, like, listen, I know you put so much into me, but it wasn't working out too much time, because then I also started studying part-time through UNISA to try and, finish the mechanical degree. And then I was doing too much. And then I decided that maybe I need to step back from this. So I stepped back from that. I applied at CPUT, went through the motions. And then I basically crashed. I just started so I finished everything, just started my in-service training at the consulting firm. And literally my body just gave up on me a little. I crashed, and I had no idea that that psychologically, the impacts of trauma and things like that.
Because now it's all just building up and coming to one point.
And that and then I needed to go. I think my parents were so afraid, because I needed to be hospitalized for a while. And we thought that something was wrong with me. Something with, I think it was my liver or something. And we thought that something was wrong. Ridwan was afraid. Everyone was a bit panicked. And it turns out that my body was just, not taking this anymore, because I was just pushing through. And my body was just telling me I needed to stop, take a break and deal with everything. And luckily, with so much support, friends and family and stuff.
I need one.
Yes, I think that goes without saying. Sure, I found the best partner. That. Yeah, because we've been. People might not know this, but we've been together since at high school, and we've been friends before that. So, so I had the support, and I needed to deal with everything. I had to be admitted to the clinic for 3 weeks. I had to literally deal with everything. The pressure I put on myself, traumas from, let's go with, I wanted to keep this light, but so trauma from gangsterism, maybe having seen dead bodies, shooting. There were so many things, and and the therapist was like, that is your reaction to those things. That's actually not okay. It shouldn't be normalized. And I was like, taken aback by all of the things I was learning. So I had to deal with all of those traumas. I had to deal with the pressure I was putting on myself. I had to deal with the fact that I jumped into engineering, even though I absolutely love math. I love math. I love science. But I just jumped into engineering thinking that this was going to pay the best in the shortest period of time, 4 years now, so that I could get my family away from the situation. I didn't even think of other options. And to be fair, at school, they were pushing studying above everything and anything. And we can't fault the generation, the older generation, because that was opening doors for them at that point. But for us, there's so many different opportunities. We barely learned about learnerships and things like that. So yes, I forced myself into engineering. I had to deal with that.
But what pulled you when you were in the clinic? What was the thing that kind of like, not pulled you out, I think that's the wrong word, but like drove you or made you work through it?
It was I needed to be myself again. I needed to rediscover who I was without all of that, without all of those external things affecting me. And I needed to get better for my partner and for my family. So that, I mean, that was good motivation. It was, especially the first week, it was really bad. It was really bad. But the amount of things I learned, and that's what also opened another door for me. Psychology, like self-study with psychology. Since that time, that is how I've been learning about the brain, learning about those things. And it's brought a really nice sense of awareness, self-awareness, because now in the way I am right now, I can tell when, if I'm drifting into a dark space or a rut or something, or if I'm not okay, can pinpoint what's happening. Listen, do I need to go speak to someone, or can I just vent about something? So now there's like a line. So
like
I can
gauge now.
Yes, I can reflect and be like, nah, man, it's not that hectic. It's just somebody just made me upset or something, so I can just vent about it, type of thing. But yes, it was my family. It was, Ridwan. That was the motivation.
Lovely.
Getting better for them.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you spoke about your family upbringing, and now you have a small family of your own. How has motherhood changed your perspective?
So we always had this idea of, what kind of parents we would be, how we would discipline. We were so naive because all of that went out of the window when we started learning. And people are like, you don't need books, you have older people to rely on. No, you do need books sometimes. You do sometimes need to learn and step a bit further, especially because both Ridwan and I love science so much. We look at the facts, we look at the different types of parenting, culturally, traditionally, all of those different things,
and what would bring the best out of your child.
Yes. And so Isra, our baby girl who's a toddler now, she is extremely smart, very verbally gifted since really young, like a few months, as you know. Very talkative, very, I want to say defiant, but let's just go with strong-willed, very strong-willed. So now we have like 3 strong-willed personalities in the same house. And we've had to, change our way of dealing and thinking with people, because after all, she's a little person. She is actually able to reason. So we explain things to her. We don't do because I told you so's. No, we actually explain things to her. We only shout when she's about to endanger herself, to stop her in the tracks, type of thing. When there are emergencies, we don't do physical like hidings and stuff, the way things used to be. No, we don't do that, because we teach her, you don't harm our bodies, we don't harm your bodies. And
you
yes,
found that's worked with her.
It really has. So yes, she does things that's developmentally appropriate. So yes, she would throw things and all of those. And this is very personal about her, but for the podcast,
let the people in.
Yes. But so we suspected that she was a bit neurodivergent, and I never wanted to, just place what I was thinking, on a project, what was happening with me when I was growing up. So I'd always ask Ridwan to be the observer of what was happening. And then we got actual like professionals to do assessments. It's really changed the way we deal with her. We have a lot more patience even though it's really difficult because it feels like you're dealing. She's only 3. We have to remind ourselves, but we're dealing with like the 7-year-old, and then also
large and in charge.
Yeah, and the vocabulary is like
Exemplary.
ours, yes. So it's sometimes difficult because and sometimes the justifications and like sometimes we just, what else can you say if logically it's sound from this 3-year-old and then it pisses you off because she's sorry, not but because she, you know, and she's putting you in your place basically. So yes, we've had to do things a lot differently. We've had to explain to grandparents, we've had to explain to people here and there, and you know, she's sensitive to sound, so she has earmuffs sometimes, all of those things, and she's very straightforward. She recognizes that people look differently, colors of their skin, body shapes, all of those things, and we've had to have those discussions. We've had to have discussions about, you know, very heavy topics as well, that she somehow comes up with. Yes. So yes, the parenting style compared to what we thought we would be doing, very different. Very different.
It also just contributes to the fact that it's different when it's your own.
Yes.
You can have this idea of what you want to do, but when the person is actually there, that's when the real thing happens.
Yes, exactly that.
So we're just going to throw some quick fire questions for you.
Okay.
The first thing that comes to mind, say it immediately, right? Nike or Adidas?
Nike.
If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Ooh. This morning I said fire. I'm just going to go with that.
Fire.
Heat. Yeah. No, you see, because this morning Isra she was freezing us every time we're trying to get done.
So
and we had to oblige. Yes. And this is the first time I thought of it, and I told her, okay, today my superpower is fire.
Yeah.
So I was melting Ridwan and myself, you know, so she couldn't freeze us the whole time. So we're going to go with fire as well today for the rest of the day. It's the theme.
Yes. Lovely. Samosas or pies? Good for the soul.
Oh, the fried goodness. Yeah, and the nice stuffings. We'll go with that.
And then the last one is, would you rather do a dinner or a picnic?
Picnic. Oh, outdoorsy, you know. Grass when the weather is nice.
Lovely. And, you know, get the perfect shots for the Instas.
Oh no, I'm not about that life. But yes, I would take.
You can just post it to the GenC page.
Yeah.
So what we like to end the pod of is just, if there's anything that you could tell your younger self, because you've gone through so much. What would a one-liner be, if you could?
JP, that's so difficult. A one-liner.
A one-liner.
Sure. I would tell myself that therapy works, and if I could have through government clinics or whatever, I would probably have did that sooner. So I think let's go with therapy helps. Lovely. That kind of thing. Yes. There's too much, eh? This one line of business. But yes, that should have or could have helped. I mean, our journeys are the way it is, you know, and it's made us who we are. But yes.
You don't always have to go through it to have to learn the lesson.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's one thing. My mom's always taught me that, you know, when it came to like safety and stuff like that. And my dad especially, you know, teaching the female to protect herself and whatever. But yes. Yes.
Thank you so much, Subaganiah. Thank you for coming here, and thank you for sharing your story. I think it's super important. I think we can all learn from it. And I think thank you for using us. If you like the content, like, share, subscribe, and we out. Peace.